Hey y'all, Dr. Keisha Green here, and welcome to Lesson 5 of the Culturally Responsive Teaching 101 course. This lesson will center around the topic of critical race theory. In this lesson, we will go over what critical race theory is, why it is important, and how it can inform teaching practice. By the end of this lesson, learners should be able to define what critical race theory means, connect the information gained to their own teaching practice, articulate an understanding of the meaning of critical race theory, and evaluate their own teaching practice and understand how critical race theory can work to inform their teaching practice. First, it is important for you to understand what critical race theory actually means. The Britannica Dictionary defines critical race theory as being an intellectual and social movement and loosely organized framework of legal analysis based on the premise that race is not a natural, biologically grounded feature of physically distinct subgroups of human beings, but a socially constructed, culturally invented category that is used to oppress and exploit people of color. Critical race theory has origins that stem from the legal studies movement, and within this theoretical framework, there exists 5 tenets, with one of them centering around the idea that racism is a social construct that has become enmeshed or has become an ingrained part of society. Before we learn about the 5 tenets, let's go over and gain an understanding of what racism is and how it can be defined. Racism has been defined as being an organized system premised on the categorization and ranking of social groups into races, and devalues, disempowers, and differentially allocates desirable societal opportunities and resources to racial groups regarded as inferior. Additionally, racism has been understood as being a form of prejudice defined by preconceived, erroneous beliefs about race and members of racial groups. With critical race theory, it essentially surmises that the systems that have been put into place and that are presently being used have been built with the intent of not benefiting all, but with aiming to primarily benefit those in specifically the white community. Now that you have an understanding of what critical race theory is and how it can be defined, and you have an understanding of what racism is and how it can be defined, let's go over and learn about the 5 tenets of critical race theory. The first tenet is that racism is a normal part of society. Again, when you think of the systems that have been put into place and that were built, they were built not with the intent of benefiting everyone, but with primarily benefiting those in the white community. Additionally, when you think of the perspectives and the viewpoints that are put at the forefront, oftentimes they are not the viewpoint or the perspectives of those from various racial groups, but primarily the white perspective is the one that's put at the forefront. The second tenet is interest convergence. Essentially, interest convergence means that the actions that are exhibited by an individual or group are oftentimes motivated by them having a particular interest in something or a material determinism. So they're not oftentimes motivated by a good reason or to benefit another, but rather to benefit themselves and for them to achieve or gain something that they are going after. Through the critical race theory perspective, it kind of highlights that those in the white community have primarily acted when they have also benefited from a change or that there is something in the action for them to gain. The third tenet is that race is a social construct. And aligning with this, biologists, geneticists, anthropologists, sociologists, they all are in agreement that race is not a scientific reality, but rather it is a socially constructed or culturally invented category that is primarily used to oppress and to exploit people of color. The fourth tenet is intersectionality and anti-essentialism. So intersectionality is the examination of how various factors, including class, race, sex, national origin, how they all interact and impact various occurrences. Intersectionality can sometimes be hard because we as humans are used to in our society to naturally just see things in a binary lens. And as such, we'll see things as being black or white or green or blue. And so sometimes it's hard to see the multiple or the different layers that occur when different factors are kind of coexisting at the same time. So now on the other side of the coin of intersectionality, where things are kind of existing in multiple layers and at the same time, and that they're impacting an individual and that people are made up of various layers and various factors, the other side of this would be essentialism. And so the idea of essentialism is that those who are a part of a group all will act or believe or think in the exact same manner. So, essentialism and thinking in an essentialist mindset is very harmful because stereotypes or limited perceptions about a group will often occur. So, this is why with critical race theory, you want to be anti essentialism, to not kind of lump everybody together as acting or believing in the same manner. And then again, to remember that with intersectionality, people are being impacted at various levels and are being received or have different factors kind of occurring and impacting them at the same time. The fifth tenet of critical race theory is counter-narrative. And what is meant by this tenet is the power of storytelling. So, storytelling is viewed as being a very old art form in human history. It has been used to share the experiences and the narratives of those individuals who are often left out of the stories and of the narratives. So, we have to think that the history and the stories that have been told in the mainstream are often through one perspective or one group. And so, with this tenet, it becomes important to not just rant and moan about issues, but to put the stories or the counter narratives of those who are often left out of the forefront at the forefront. And so their experiences can become more widespread and more well known through counter narrative and through storytelling. So now you may be wondering, why is it important to know what critical race theory means? And there's just been a lot of misinformation circling around about what critical race theory means and the understanding of critical race theory. And so as an educator and as someone who may not be an educator but who's watching this lesson right now, it's just important to be aware of what's happening in the world, because we as humans are charged with shaping and teaching the future leaders of tomorrow. And so, as much as we want to live in our own isolated bubble, we also need to make sure that we are educating ourselves of what's happening around us and actually putting in the effort to do the research and to further explore rather than just take everything that we encounter at face value. So I encourage you to go on and do your own research and to explore more about critical race theory beyond just this lesson. Again, as educators, we are teaching others, but we also need to make sure that we ourselves are constantly learning. And so we are on this journey of being lifelong learners and teaching lifelong learners. And that's going to encourage us to do our own research and to make sure that we are challenging the narrative every so often and not just taking everything at face value, but doing the proper research behind it to further understand it. So through having an understanding of what critical race theory means, it can allow you to thwart any misinformation or misunderstandings that may arise when you have conversations with others about critical race theory. It can allow you to begin to recognize any oppressive systems that are in place or any oppressive beliefs that you may encounter that others have exhibited. Additionally, it can allow you to start to have the awareness of those internal or external biases that exist within you. And so really just having an understanding of critical race theory is just going to aid you with just seeing the world around you through a more open-minded perspective. So what impact can critical race theory have on one's teaching practice? So ideally, it will encourage you, the educators, just to hold more awareness of the race and the intersectionality of identities that will exist in your classroom across the students that you interact with. So with this information, I hope that it will aid you with shaping your pedagogy and shaping your teaching practice and shaping the learning environment that you create so that it benefits the students who are going to be learning within it. Essentially, just having an understanding that the idea of racism is embedded into the systems that are in place can ideally give you a new perspective on how your students may have to go and navigate this big wide world. And so if you have students that are from a group or community that has been marginalized, just having an understanding of critical race theory will ideally help you with aiding and ensuring that your teaching practice is more culturally responsive. As an educator, engaging in self-reflection and understanding your teaching practice is crucial. And so I want you to take a moment to pause and think about how you can use the insights gained from this lesson to inform and better grow your teaching practice to center around being culturally responsive. On the next slide, you will find the references that were used to shape this lesson, and at the end of this video, you will find the discussion board number 6 question. So once you are done with your self-reflection, please continue on and be sure to answer the discussion board question in the comment section. I thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next lesson video.